Welcome to another episode of the State of the Bulldogs with Sam, Mike, Jeb, and Grant. Tonight, boys, the Final Four is set. It is Sunday the 30th. Took last week off after a little double header with the surprise NIT announcement. The game against George Mason went about just like we thought it would. But the Final Four is set. Auburn, Duke, who else? Houston and
Florida.
Florida. That's right. That's right. Um,
We
pretty,
all
pretty.
laughed. We all laughed at Jay Billis for putting 4-1 seeds when the tournament started, and now we've got all
Sure
4-1
enough.
seeds. I
Second time ever or third time?
think second time. Yeah, they showed it last time. The Final Four was in San Antonio. They showed the graphic today. That was the last time 4-1 seeds were at the Final Four.
Anyway, boys, tonight we are going to get to basketball portal updates, spring football updates, catch you up on the last weekend of baseball and softball, and then wrap it up with tennis. Men's tennis doing pretty well. But Grant, basketball portal. So obviously, season came to an end against George Mason. Happy to see that the whole team showed up. There was teams throughout the NIT. I'm sure there were teams in the NCAA tournament, maybe in the 16 to 15, who had kids opting out. Our whole team showed up. Since then, we've seen a flurry of recommitted tweets, which we've all become accustomed to in this day and age, where every single week it's almost like kids have to recommit to the school they're at. Could you run through for us who all has announced that they're coming back, and then we'll get to the guys who have decided to bounce?
Yeah, Sam. The core four that Samford's brought back decided to announce all on was that not this Friday, but last Friday. Jaden Brunell announced his return along with the three freshmen who came together, who are now going to be juniors, and Josh Holloway, Riley Allensbach, and Lucas Walls all announced that they're reaffirming their commitment to staying. And then, so that's kind of the way it's kind of gone, Sam. Like you talked about, the guys basically have to put out there that they're coming back, so you don't have a chore situation like last year where you told the team he's coming back, and the day before he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to portal. See ya." Furman just did the same thing. They put out a graphic of like their top 7 guys minus PJ Smith coming back next year. So yeah, we've seen it all around college basketball. Then the guys that were leaving, Trey Fort got his 6th year due to the Diego Pavia Drew Curl, and so Trey's in the portal. This will be Trey's sixth school in 6 years. It's just wild when you think about just kind of his whole trek, especially since he spent 2 years in JUCO. Julian Brown in the portal came over from Wagner last offseason. Isaiah West, former 4-star prospect, came over from Vandy. He's in the portal. And then our guy, Larry Oleinka, also jumped in the portal after Isaiah did as well. So those 4 announced they're coming back. And then Trey Fort, Julian Brown, Isaiah West, and Larry all are in the portal right now.
Any surprises? I mean, it's nice that Brownell's coming back. It's funny, we were texting before, how are we going to beat George Mason? Oh, well, if Brownell and Ford both have a good game, we can win. Neither one of them ever had a good game on the same night. So if you had to pick one or two, I guess we'd like to see Brownell come back, and he did. Um, who was there anybody surprising that left? Or anybody that y'all are really pumped to have back, other than the core 3? Because I think we're all excited to see exactly how they will continue to develop. Because it's really Bucky's test. Like, that's kind of the last remaining thing. Is he able to develop talent? And these 3 guys are going to show us if he can.
Yeah, he's done it before with other guys in the past, whether it's Jaden becoming the player he became, Jermaine the same way, Tor the same way. But I don't know, surprising maybe Isaiah West, if you think about it, like obviously highly regarded, the number 1 player in all of Tennessee, rated by ESPN coming out of high school, didn't have the year he wanted at Vandy, came over to Samford and wasn't really. He was good defensively, but offensively he was like questioning himself or something. He wasn't too comfortable doing anything offensively, basically. And I don't know how many
He's a
schools are looking
bust.
exactly how many schools are looking for somebody like that who's on his 3rd school. Again, you excuse the first year because it's Vandy, but in the 2nd year, Samford not really kind of show any kind of offensive capability whatsoever. So maybe he was kind of, maybe it's, we won't ask you to come, we won't say you can't come back, but if you want to go to the portal, we'll let you. We're not going to try to fight and maybe get you a better offer. So maybe he was kind of surprising, but not really anybody super surprising.
Grant, any targets we're looking at?
It's still kind of early in the process. When you're in Samford's case, you kind of have to wait because like wait for like the trickle down basically of guys. Okay, we're going to try to get the best offer we can, and then like money's crazy right now. Like New Mexico State's point guard, really good. He's going to UCLA, and his original offer is like 2.5 or $3 million. Like for him, exactly. Yeah,
That's first round NBA money, 3 million
exactly.
bucks.
Yeah, with the house settlement basically and the revenue sharing and whatnot, you can kind of give these players a little more. So Samford in their situation can kind of wait a little bit, or you can go jump in the D2 ranks and get a bunch of guys that say, hey, this guy's a
Yeah,
bona fide scorer. They've done it in the past, but basically just trying to find more offense. And one of those guys, they're, according to On3 today, they're trying to set up a visit with Florida Southern D2 guard Jaden Booth. He's 6'2". He's setting up visits with Mercer. Samford has an upcoming Zoom with Elon. He was a D2 All American last year. 21 points per game, 5 assists, 39% from three. So just trying to find that kind of scoring punch. He's a career 41% 3-point shooter on six and a half attempts per game,
that'll
carrying
play.
a 2.25 to 1 assist to turnover ratio. So yeah, you're seeing Sanford maybe a lot more try to get in the D2 ranks, go find some scores, as Bucky said, that but they need to kind of improve the offense from last year.
Yeah, that to take a step back and think about the ramifications of that. We look at the NCAA tournament this year, and no Cinderella's pierced the Sweet 16. When you have mid majors who are now going to have to draw from the D2 ranks because there's like in the next several years until something sorts itself out, and Isaiah West is never leaving Vanderbilt voluntarily for playing time. Like that's ridiculous. Like they're like, why would you go play some? It's like the JP McGee. He knew he wasn't going to play at Auburn, but if you get $500,000, I'd go sit anywhere for $500,000. You know what I'm saying? Um, and so I think that cap is probably going to keep on growing to the point where, like, yes, Sanford, we are a mid-major program, but we are not at the top echelon of the mid-major. Like maybe the New Mexicos and the San Diego States, um, the Gonzagas, maybe they draw a little bit closer if they can throw some money around. But otherwise, it's almost like we're going to become the new D2 in terms of talent when you just compare it to right now. Uh, Not to sound alarmist, just that's kind of what that sounds like it means. If we're getting the guys like Isaiah West, who are basically getting cut, presumably from Vanderbilt, like that's not any better. Um, but we'll see. I mean, maybe the money is a blip. Um, Maybe schools realize that they don't want to spend this much on a fleeting relationship with very little return or potential return, to no return. Especially in the case of UCLA. I mean, where did they go this year, right? Nowhere. Um, so we'll see what happens. But that's the vibe I'm getting right now. Grant, who else are we looking at? Any other all D2 or what?
Mainly kind of right now, just waiting since it's only been a week since the portal opened. Monday as we're recording Sunday. It's going to take a while for news to trickle in because you're going to see if you're on Twitter, you're going to see all these. This guy has heard
I want to
45
know
schools
now.
reach out, but yeah, who knows how real those lists extra are? You see some like Sanford's on a list, Bama's on the same list. Like I don't think Alabama and Sanford are reaching out to the same guys on the same list, but you can
Does
put
a
you
chore
put
have
out there.
eligibility? Like,
He
does this year count if you get
I
kicked
thought he
off
was playing
in the
professionally
oh,
beginning?
now.
oh wait, he has a JUCO year, so he could theoretically go in the portal and say, "Hey, can I come back, please? I beg you, please." Now how feasible that would be, I don't know, but I mean, he could, given his JUCO year, go back in the portal and jump.
I'm just
So
throwing
I
it
think
out there.
Quest is another year.
Mike, Quez is actually just an
Yeah.
NCAA employee at this point who can go and play for any member university.
yeah, Sam, I saw mid major madness tweet the other day. It's like Quez, like all caps. Quez Glover's still playing college basketball. I said,
It's
yeah.
amazing. It's amazing.
That first comment was like Sanford legend Quez Glover. I said, yeah, we all remember the Quez Glover before breaking your nose in the.
All right, let's get to spring football. So, Greg, you were able to go down to one of the scrimmages this past week, and surprisingly, they have a spring football roster online, people, online available for the masses. Um, Nothing too spicy. I mean, we talked about all the transfers that we got the past two signing days. Um, but still, Grant, run, give some quick thoughts on what you saw at practice.
Yeah, I took a bunch of notes, mainly just I went through all the guys that were out there, the quote starters for this scrimmage. I can run through all those if you want me
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
So along the offensive line, left tackle Duncan Johnson, freshman from Georgia High School. Left guard Justin Peretz, senior. Center Wesley Graham, a freshman, was out there to start. Then Noah Watts, who was the backup center last year, was out there too. Caleb Purley, a right guard, sophomore, 6'5", 304, transferred from Southeast Missouri State. Right tackle Tyler Douthit was here last year. He's a sophomore now, 6'4", 280. And then at the skill position, Quincy was out there once again with running back C.J. Evans, a Tennessee State grad transfer who ran for or had 1,000 all-purpose yards, I think, last year. On the X receiver was Calvin Jones, new transfer receiver from Western Carolina, came over this last offseason. Preston Bird back for another year in the slot, a sophomore. Jaden Gibson on the outside, another guy in the slot, as a transfer from Virginia. I believe he had a Samford offer out of high school, so that's where that
Mhm.
connection came from. And then Teddy Davenport was also in the slot with Preston Bird as well on the other side. He came over from UAB. He's out there since Rafe Vincent is still coming back from his season-ending leg injury. He was out there in a non-contact jersey on Friday. So that was how the quote first team offense lined up out there.
Who was? I saw you wrote down Hayden Kles.
Yeah, he became the backup quarterback last year after Scalzo left the team. So
Gotcha.
he's a sophomore now.
Okay, and then the Wake transfer Charlie Gilliam. They both played.
Yeah, they both did. Yeah, they're the three QBs out. Even though Samford, as we know, has 35 quarterbacks on the roster, but those were the three that are actually out there. Gilliam actually had a nice long run, took a read option for about 40 yards, and then had a pick a couple possessions. As I told you before we started, that same long throw that everybody tries to do from hash to hash on the opposite end, and somebody actually was Anila Perkins of a Fordham transfer jumped in and picked that off. So yeah, that's kind of
Nice.
how the offense was.
Yeah, I remember being excited about the DB transfers.
Yeah,
The D line, biggest question mark. Offensive line has promise. We're using a lot of internal freshman recruits that we had either last year or the year before that. So that's always, you hope to be exciting. We're not filling as many holes like we were last season.
yeah.
But overall, what do you think, Grant? How, I mean,
Still didn't score in the red zone, which I thought was kind of funny and sad at the same time. But they did a lot of red zone packages and stuff. Didn't score for like, the first
that's a mindset problem. Like that's
exactly.
a total mindset.
Didn't score for the first couple of times till somebody had like an inside zone. You took like a yard after the center, whichever backup center was out there, snapped three snaps at the quarterback's feet. He basically had to jump up and say, "Here, you take it," so I don't get hit or quote hit in the scrimmage. But
Right.
the offense kind of fun. The first team guys went out there and scored in like 6 plays and right down the field. Screen had a actually Evans had a big like 35-yard run to set up that touchdown where Quincy found Preston Bird in the end zone. So yeah, it was just
How
fun to see.
fast did he look?
Yeah, pretty fast. Yeah,
That's good.
yeah. So it was fun. He was running by a lot of guys. He was actually when they did
Maybe how slow did our defense look?
exactly when they did special team work too. He was out there punt return and kick return. So CJ Evans looks like a guy who definitely has the speed and kind of ability to take one the distance. But
Okay, that's good. On the defensive side of the ball, anybody stick out?
yeah, defense. I'll run through those starters. Conroy Cunningham on the D line. He was a transfer from Bethune-Cookman last year. He had a couple of nice run fits, stopped a couple rushes from gaining any yards. On the other end was Donovan Grayson, a transfer from West Virginia. On the inside was Corey Wharton, who came over from last year from Georgia State, and then Hank Weber, transfer from Wisconsin. It was a 3 or 4 star
That's
prospect
right.
on Wisconsin.
Four-star
Yeah.
Oh, that's
recruit.
the kid that lives in my parents' neighborhood.
Oh, that's right.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Hope
then
that kid's a
same
beast.
exactly. Yeah, same 4.25. I guess Samford was more 3.35 last year, but mainly 4.25 in this scrimmage. Jaden Mosley was in there at his normal spot, manning the defense, being the captain, basically.
Yeah.
Carson Sloan was a freshman linebacker on the inside with Mosley, 6'2", 220.
Okay.
And
It's
then
pretty
Sam
good
going
size.
back. Exactly. And then Sam going back to the secondary, like you talked about. Marlon McClendon, transfer from Georgia State. He was jawing at everybody. He had a couple pass
Yeah.
breakouts where he
That's the guy. That's the guy right there.
yeah, had a couple people use your turn and like say something, like talk as much trash or whatever to the offensive sideline, which was sick. Neil Perkins, I mentioned, a grad transfer from Fordham at the other corner. And then safety, Jalen Nelson, who was here last year. And then LaShawn Young, a transfer from Miles College, who I want to say led D2 in interceptions last year. So
Nice. All right. I mean, it's only spring. It's only March. Uh, we are not going to fall for some of the rhetoric that was coming out of camp last season. Because my gosh, we all thought Mac Howard was going to be the starter and beat out Quincy, and yet we don't even know if he's still on the team. Um, so we will see. I wish there was like a preseason like the NFL where you could get a real feel before the season began. Um, but we won't really know until the fall. Baseball. Moving on. Unless you'll have anything else.
another guy who's secondary, guy with the best name in college football, Gumbo Gaskins, had a pick as well. He was out there.
Such a good dude.
The Vandy transfer from last year. Yep.
Like any comments?
Who's our defensive coordinator? So we're on like our fourth defensive
That's a good
coordinator
question.
in 2 years.
Yeah, again our third defensive coordinator in the offseason after gosh, I don't know. Oh, Adam Braithwaite went to be a safeties coach at Cincinnati.
And Cooper.
Brandon Cooper went back to Troy, or back to went to Troy to follow our last DC who left to Troy to be the linebackers coach, Chris Boone. So, yeah,
Tough spot.
Exactly. Scott Sloan, defensive coordinator, to come in. I don't know if he was at a spot last year, but in prior years of experience, he's got 30 years of experience as a co-DC or as a DC, and
30.
according to his App State bio, 30 years of
I think
experience
we'll be all right.
exactly with high school in there too. Yeah, DC has been a DC at Georgia Southern, Army, and then Southern Miss as well. He's kind of quote traveled around a little bit. So yeah, it's just interesting. Again, he was kind of a late, obviously, with your third defensive coordinator of the offseason. So yeah, Scott Sloan came over from most recently of App State in 2023.
Nice. Hopefully, no one watches this podcast who works in administration at another university and takes him too. Because that would be insane to lose 3 defensive coordinators in one off season. But here we are.
It sounds like
all right,
the
boys.
goal line defense is still pretty good, so I think we're all right.
Again, mindset. That's one mindset we have down. That's ingrained in the culture. Hopefully that does continue. All right, moving on to baseball and softball, because those seasons are in full swing. Baseball, rough stretch, boys. It is not. It's still. I hesitate to say too early to tell because we're like 28 games into the season. I think it's safe to say that the pitching staff is not the best pitching staff we've had since 2011 or whatever Coach David was claiming at the beginning of the season. They're okay. The hitting up and down. It's been an interesting ride to watch. We get into the heart of conference play starting this weekend against Wofford. But over the last 2 weeks, we dropped the big series DTSU 2-1. Looked like we were going to get swept. Pulled out the win on Sunday, but got beat pretty handily on Friday, which was disappointing. Then we lost to Mississippi State in the midweek, and then most recently dropped the series to Creighton 2-1. So not what you want to see. But not all bad. I think our offense is playing all right. It's been a little inconsistent, but for the most part, we get hits. Like that's the thing. If you go to look at our averages and our hits, like we get on base. Maybe it's now just turning the corner and converting those hits into runs if we want to be successful. This coming week, we travel to Bama on Tuesday, so we will have played them by the time this drops. Their top 25, top 15 team just beat top 15 Oklahoma in a series 2-1. So that'll be a tough one. Fun crowd though. I think the Bama baseball crowd has come back to life after a few dormant decades. And then we go on the road to Wofford for the weekend series, and I'll get to this in just one sec. What'll be kind of a real show me of like where we stand in the pecking order. ETSU's clearly top dog right now. They beat Tennessee for Pete's sakes, and then rolled us for 2 games. So
Tuesday night game, those don't matter, Sam.
yeah. So that game that series is going to really tell us if we need to be worried for Greenville or not. Wofford has two top 25 wins this year. They beat Troy and Kentucky. Kentucky was in a series. They got one win in the series, but Troy was a midweek. And they most recently are coming off a series win against Citadel 2-1. But overall, in the SoCon, the Warren Nolan updated rankings, ETSU still top 40 at number 33, which is wild. Wofford 78, Mercer 104. Mercer making a big climb. A lot of preseason hype internally over there, and that seems to be coming into fruition a little bit. Samford at 109, so that's kind of your middle, like your three right there. Wofford to Samford, who can be second best at the moment to ETSU. And then Western is at 127, Citadel 155, UNCG 164, and then VMI 262. So that's kind of how the conference is stacking up. ETSU on top, Wofford, Mercer, Samford scrapping for second, and then Western, Citadel, UNCG in that next pack, and then VMI. Terrible pitching, but again, pretty good hitting this year. I think, and this includes all games, including their really soft non-conference, but I think they're leading the league in runs or home runs. One of those, I can't remember off the top of my head, but VMI back to their usual shenanigans of scoring 100 runs and giving up 101. But Grant, softball, talk to us about our legit softball squad.
I was trying to think of a sports comp for scoring a bunch of points but giving up a lot. Anyway,
Sanford
it'll come to me later.
Oh, that's too soon.
It was right in front of me. I didn't even think about that. No, we didn't score this year. Remember, even though, softball. Yeah, they had a massive weekend. Good lord, beat Mercer 2-1 last week in the series. Lost to Jack City on Tuesday, but then something about staying at that cabin outside Colville where all the teams stay. Basically, it was like, oh yeah, we're just gonna go out here and score a bunch of runs. I don't know. I have stayed in that cabin before. It's interesting spot to say the least. But that's the closest thing to Western Carolina you can stay. Has enough people. This softball scored 28 runs on Saturday or Friday in a doubleheader. 4 touchdowns, beat Western 14-0 in the first game, and then beat the 14-4 in the next game. It's like, oh yeah, game 3, should we stop scoring? Nah, fam, we're gonna keep scoring. 16-2 was the final score. This game against Western, they had 5 home runs on Saturday. I think they had like somewhere but almost close to 15 home runs this weekend, which is objectively sick when you think about it. Softball, then they traveled to Bama for the midweek on Tuesday. Again, both teams playing midweeks.
Have those new torpedo bats like the Yankees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the wiffle ball bats that we used back in the day. Traveled to Bama on Tuesday before hosting ETSU this weekend. ETSU is 13-22, coming off a series loss to Furman. Just a little bit of the SoCon overview of RPI. UNCG at 53, Samford at 66, Chattanooga at 71, Mercer at 99, Wofford at 124, Western at 168, Furman at 210, and ETSU at 245. So yeah,
pretty good.
Punt from the new softball coach and team. Yeah, 23-14, 5-1 in conference play, leading the league right now. So
SoCon has 4 top 100 teams. Pretty competitive.
Yep. Yeah, crazy to see again how many runs they ended up scoring this weekend in 2 days. Basically, that's absurd. I know it's softball, you can roll the same pitcher out there, but basically just having all of your pitchers just get shellacked for 2 days is pretty sick if you're the team scoring all those runs.
Yeah, no, good things happening in the softball world. All right, Mike, bring us home. Tennis, men's and women's.
The men are looking strong right now. So they beat UTC and UNCG this past weekend, sitting at 15-4 on the season. So it's good enough for first place in the conference, tied with Mercer. But we've got them coming up towards the end of the season as well as ETSU. So wrapping up the season pretty soon here with ETSU and Mercer, and then SoCon Championship middle of April 16th through the 18th. So going to be a tough.
It's like 2 weeks.
Couple weeks, yeah, 2 weeks from today, I guess, or 2.5 weeks. But
are we usually this good at men's tennis? 15-4 feels
Yeah, 15-4
Good.
seems unusually good. I know we were pretty good back when we were in college, but that coach, when we were there, left to, I think, be an assistant coach at Washington State or somewhere out west. So we haven't been
Ugh.
quite as good since then. But this is probably the best season we've had since we were there in 2016,
Feels
2017.
that way.
Yeah.
We'll check on that. We'll check on that.
Yeah, we'll fact check ourselves. We've never made a mistake on this podcast before.
No, never,
Perfect.
Never.
no mea culpas whatsoever. No.
Right. Or like the Trump administration. Uh,
Gosh.
women's
Uh,
tennis.
yeah, the women not quite as strong of a season as the men. They beat UNCG and Tennessee State this past week, but then lost to Western and ETSU over the last couple of weeks. So they're kind of sitting middle of the pack in the SoCon. Furman and ETSU are currently tied at the top. So that season's also wrapping up pretty soon. We've got Furman and Wofford this weekend. So see if we can possibly try to knock off top seed Furman this week.
I don't know why the women's schedule is so far off the men's.
It's weird.
Like
Yeah.
we have 2 more matches with men's, and I think we have 6 more, 5 more with women, something like that.
But the men were
Hmm.
also playing a bunch of double, like they played 2 matches per day, per weekend for a while there. If you remember, women were playing 1 match per weekend or.
Because like when you go look at the SoCon standings, uh, who's in first? Furman and ETSU, they're 2-0. Like we're 1-1. Like it's not. No one's played anything. I don't understand. I don't understand. Anyway, boys, we have big series for baseball this weekend. Big series for, or hopefully a nice easy series for softball this weekend. Um, and we'll all just be waiting to see what the portal brings and what the portal takes. Um, until next week. Hope you all have a good one. Stay the Bulldogs is out.